what the landmark trials actually found and what they left out. There are two major studies that shaped how doctors think about blood pressure in older adults, and if you only hear the summary version, you'll walk away with the wrong idea entirely. The first is a large American trial from 2015 that followed over 9,000 adults, all 50 and older, with an average age right around 68. Researchers split participants into two groups. One group aimed for an intensive target, systolic blood pressure under 120. The other aimed for a more standard target, under 140. The headline results sound simple. The group that pushed their blood pressure down to under 120 had fewer heart attacks, fewer strokes, and fewer cardiovascular deaths. On the surface, that seems to settle the debate. Lower is better, full stop. Everyone should aim for under 120, except that's not the full story. That same intensive group also experienced significantly more dizziness, more fainting episodes, more electrolyte imbalances, more kidney complications, and more falls. In other words, yes, fewer people were having heart attacks, but a meaningful number of them were now living with blood pressure so low that they were losing their balance, blacking out, and hitting the ground. And a fall in your 70s or 80s isn't a minor inconvenience. A fall can mean a hip fracture. A fall can mean a head injury. A fall can mean a hospital stay that triggers a cascade of complications that has nothing to do with the heart at all. And here's the part that almost never makes it into the conversation. That trial excluded huge portions of the real-world population. Nobody with diabetes was allowed in, nobody with a prior stroke, nobody with dementia, nobody with advanced kidney disease, nobody dealing with significant frailty. So what this trial actually proved was that a target under 120 can benefit strong, resilient, highly active older adults with relatively few other health complications. It did not prove that this target is safe or appropriate for the average older adult walking into a clinic today, the one managing 3 chronic conditions, taking half a dozen medications, and already feeling a little unsteady on their feet. The second major study came out of China in 2021, and it followed a similar design with over 8,500 participants between the ages of 60 and 80. Same setup, an intensive group targeting under 120, a standard group targeting under 140. And the results echoed the first trial almost exactly. Fewer cardiovascular events in the lower blood pressure group, but again, more dizziness, more kidney strain, more fainting. So when you put these two studies together, the takeaway isn't everyone over 60 should aim for under 120. The real takeaway is far more nuanced and honestly far more useful. An aggressive target can be genuinely protective for the right person and genuinely risky for the wrong one. The trials weren't wrong. The way people summarize the trials is what's misleading. So what does this actually mean for you? Let's translate the research into something practical. If you're over 60, you're walking regularly, you're highly independent, your thinking is sharp, your kidneys are in good shape, and you're not juggling a long list of medications, you may genuinely benefit from a tighter target, something closer to that under 120 systolic range the trials tested. Your body has the reserve to handle it, and the cardiovascular protection may well be worth it. But if you're over 60 and you're managing multiple health conditions, taking 4 or more medications, your kidney function isn't what it used to be, you already get lightheaded from time to time, and you've had a stumble or a near fall recently, chasing that same under 120 number isn't cautious, it's aggressive, and it can actually work against you. The goal of blood pressure management was never supposed to be hitting a number on a chart. It was always supposed to be protecting your body, your independence, and your quality of life. Sometimes those two things point in the same direction. Sometimes they don't. This is where a lot of people get stuck, though, because how do you actually know which category you fall into? Your body is constantly giving you feedback. You just have to know what signals to pay attention to. The warning signs. Your blood pressure is too low. There's a specific set of red flags that indicate your current target has been pushed past the point of being helpful. And if you notice any one of these, it's worth having a conversation about backing things off rather than pushing further. Severe lightheadedness when you stand up, the kind where the room tilts and you have to grab onto something, is one of the clearest signs. So is dizziness that consistently shows up in the morning before you've even had a chance to fully get moving. Brain fog that seems to come and go without explanation is another one people tend to dismiss as just getting older, when in reality it can be a direct sign that your brain isn't getting quite enough blood flow. Persistent fatigue that doesn't improve with rest, a general sense of unsteadiness on your feet, muscle cramps or signs of an electrolyte imbalance, and a systolic reading that regularly dips below 100 are all part of the same pattern. Any one of these on its own might not mean much, but if you're noticing several of them together, especially after a medication change, that's your body sending a clear message. This target is too low for me right now as I am. And that message matters just as much as any number on a chart. Low blood pressure might sound like a universally good thing, but not when it comes at the cost of your balance, your clarity, and your safety. The framework, finding your actual target. So let's get to the number you actually came here for. Based on everything we've just walked through, here's a practical, age-adjusted framework that fits the vast majority of older adults. If you're between 60 and 79, active, independent, and not managing significant chronic conditions, a reasonable target sits under 130 over 80. Your body likely has the resilience to handle that range comfortably, and the cardiovascular benefits are well worth pursuing. If you're in that same 60 to 79 age range, but you're dealing with dizziness, some frailty, multiple medical conditions, or a longer medication list, a more appropriate target is under 140 over 90. This gives you meaningful protection against cardiovascular events without pushing your body into the danger zone of falls and fainting. And if you're 80 or older, the target generally shifts to somewhere between 130 and 150 systolic, with the exact number, depending heavily on your individual symptoms and overall health picture. If you happen to tolerate 120 or lower without any side effects at all, no dizziness, no fatigue, no fogginess, that lower number might offer some extra protection. But that's only true if your body is actually handling it well. The moment side effects show up, the equation changes. Notice what this framework is actually built around. It's not built around a single fixed number that applies to everyone equally. It's built around how you're functioning, your independence, your symptoms, your overall resilience. That's the entire point. Two people can walk in with identical blood pressure readings and walk out with two completely different treatment plans, because the number was never the whole story. The person behind the number always was. Why this matters more than most people realize. Here's something worth sitting with for a second. A lot of well-meaning advice out there treats blood pressure like a scoreboard and get the number as low as possible, as fast as possible, and consider it a win. But medicine, especially as we get older, is rarely that simple. Your body at 70 is not the same machine it was at 40. Your arteries have changed. Your kidneys process medications differently. Your balance and reflexes aren't what they used to be. Treating. An 80-year-old's blood pressure with the exact same aggressiveness you'd use on a 45-year-old isn't just outdated thinking. It can genuinely put someone at risk. This is also why it's so important to have an honest, ongoing conversation with whoever manages your care, rather than simply accepting a number and never revisiting it. Your ideal target today might not be your ideal target in 2 years. If you become more active, lose weight, or improve other areas of your health, your body might handle a lower target beautifully. On the flip side, if a new condition develops or a fall risk increases, that target might need to move in the other direction. Blood pressure management isn't a one-time decision. It's something that should be revisited as your life and your health evolve. And honestly, this is where a lot of people go wrong. Not because they're not trying, but because they're chasing a single number they read somewhere online or heard from a friend, without ever asking whether that number actually fits them. Numbers without context aren't guidance. They're guesswork. Making sure you're even getting accurate readings. Here's something that deserves more attention than it usually gets. Even if you land on the perfect personalized target, none of it matters if the readings you're basing decisions on aren't accurate in the first place. So many people are making treatment decisions off of home blood. Red bell peppers are genuinely one of the most kidney-friendly vegetables you can buy. They're low in potassium, around 200 to 250 milligrams per cup, a fraction of what you'd get from tomatoes or potatoes, and they're loaded with vitamin C, beta-carotene, lycopene, and a range of flavonoids. These compounds function as antioxidants, meaning they help neutralize the kind of cellular stress that, over years, contributes to the gradual wearing down of kidney tissue. Think about someone who switched from junk food to what they believed was a clean diet built around tomato sauce and tomato soup, only to find their potassium numbers kept climbing despite their best intentions. When meals built around tomato-based dishes get swapped for meals built around red bell peppers, stir fries, roasted pepper strips, pepper-based soups, the potassium load drops noticeably, and there's often a secondary benefit too. Blood pressure tends to respond well to the antioxidant and flavonoid content in peppers, since vascular health and kidney health are deeply connected. When blood vessels are inflamed or stiff, kidneys have to work harder to filter blood through them. When blood vessels stay flexible and healthy, that burden eases. Cooking with red bell peppers couldn't be simpler. Roast them until the skin blisters and the natural sugars caramelize. The flavor becomes almost sweet, savory, and completely craveable. Slice them raw into salads for crunch and color. Stuff them with a grain like quinoa or rice along with some herbs for a full, satisfying meal. Because they're naturally sweet and flavorful on their own, you won't feel the need to reach for heavy sauces or extra salt to make them exciting. Next time a recipe calls for ketchup or tomato paste, consider reaching for roasted red pepper instead. Same craving for something rich and flavorful, a completely different impact on your kidneys. And finally, let's talk about the smallest, most overlooked ingredient on this entire list. One that's been trusted for thousands of years, long before anyone had a word for kidney disease: garlic. Garlic rarely gets credit as a health food because it's just always there. It's the thing you throw in the pan before everything else. But garlic carries a compound called allicin, which is released the moment you crush or chop a fresh clove. That sharp, pungent smell is quite literally the compound activating. Once inside the body, allicin has been studied for its anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and blood pressure supporting properties, which makes it particularly relevant for kidney health since high blood pressure is one of the leading contributors to kidney damage over time. There's a simple technique that maximizes garlic's benefit. Crush or finely chop your garlic and then let it sit for about 10 minutes before you cook it. This resting period gives the allicin time to fully form before heat starts to break it down. It's a small habit, but it makes a real difference in how much of that beneficial compound actually makes it into your food. Research into garlic and blood pressure has consistently found meaningful reductions in systolic blood pressure with regular consumption, often somewhere in the range of several points, which, over months and years, adds up to meaningfully less strain on the cardiovascular system, and by extension, less strain on the kidneys. It's a striking thought. Something as ordinary as a clove of garlic growing in the ground has an effect on blood pressure that rivals what some people work hard to achieve through medication alone. That's not a reason to skip your prescriptions if you have them, but it is a reason to take food seriously as part of the picture. Garlic also solves a problem a lot of people run into once they start watching sodium. How do you make food taste good without leaning on salt? Garlic is the answer. Every time you reach for a fresh clove instead of the salt shaker, you're supporting your blood vessels instead of adding pressure to them, and you're giving your kidneys one less thing to compensate for. It's worth pointing out just how unusual it is for something this cheap and this accessible to carry this much benefit. Garlic doesn't require a prescription, a specialty grocery run, or a subscription box. It's sold in every supermarket on earth for pennies a clove, and it's been part of nearly every culinary tradition in human history for a reason. Sometimes the most powerful tools for protecting your health aren't the newest supplement or the trendiest superfood. They're the ordinary staples that have quietly earned their place in the kitchen over centuries. So let's bring this all together, because the through line here is actually pretty simple once you see it. It's not that vegetables are dangerous, and it's not that you need to fear your own refrigerator. It's that concentration and preparation change everything. A tomato is fine. Tomato paste in large amounts is a different story. A potato is fine. A potato cooked without leaching in a large portion, stacked next to 2 other potato dishes, is a different story. Beets are fine in moderation, roasted and paired with calcium. Beet juice every single day is a different story. Meanwhile, cauliflower, red bell peppers, and garlic sit quietly on the safer, more protective end of the spectrum, offering flavor, nutrients, and genuine support for your cardiovascular and kidney health without asking you to sacrifice anything. If there's one habit worth taking away from this video, it's this: pay attention to concentration and portion, not just the ingredient list. A homemade meal isn't automatically a kidney-safe meal, and a vegetable with a healthy reputation isn't automatically safe in unlimited amounts. The goal isn't to eliminate entire food groups out of fear. It's to understand what's actually happening in your body so you can make small, sustainable swaps that add up over time. And look, none of this replaces an actual conversation with your doctor or a renal dietitian, especially if you already know your kidney function is reduced, or if you've been told your potassium or creatinine numbers are creeping upward. Blood work and personalized guidance matter far more than any single video ever could. But knowing which foods deserve a little extra caution, and which ones are quietly working in your favor, gives you a real head start on that conversation. So here's my question for you. Which one of these surprised you the most? Was it the tomato sauce, the potatoes, or the beets? Manina Lee,